Yeah, 7:50.
Madam Supervisor, just one thing. Did anybody notice on Leanne's report this problem with the Amish and being able to apply for STAR?
Yeah.
We got to do something. We've got to investigate that.
She has a plan on her.
She's got a plan on here.
Yeah, she's got a plan, but I mean, that's really,
I
how
don't
can
want-
the state do that?
I don't want to see them lose their exemption for sure.
She's really good. I think she's really good about being responsive to the needs of the Amish, and she really goes above and beyond. But it's true, at the policy level, it's terrible. I would encourage any of you to write a letter to our dear friend at the top. And, tell them this is a real problem.
So New York State, it's the Department of Tax and Finance, it's actually the people who's making us do this?
Yeah, but but a letter to them is not as helpful as a letter to electeds.
I understand. I'm just wondering who's the agency that brought this one up. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it was New York State who wanted to get as much money as possible from whoever.
They don't
possible.
care.
Because
They
you'll
don't-
forget to do your STAR and then it goes up and it's like.
And they're gonna change the way they do that too. Leanne said it's gonna be all different.
Yeah,
We're all gonna suffer in the long run.
it's really shameful.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Okay, so I did not get a number back from Leanne. I believe the last one was 6,500.
I think it was not 100%. But there's, might not be as much to this one as the other one, because they went to 3 or 4 different places.
It would be helpful to have an authorization to enter into an agreement with Donato Real Estate for the appraisal of the Cayman property for up to $5,000.
Sure.
So
All right.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Up to 5,000?
yeah.
Will that do?
As far as I know, but I'll talk to him if it
Okay.
changes, we'll let you know.
Will you just want to, we have the minutes, I don't know if he needs something more in writing. or if he
I'll
is-
ask him, I mean, if he
Okay.
feels he needs a contract, I'll get one.
Great.
Hey, we paid the last checks though.
Right, right.
You know?
Although it took a while, so he may not be super.
No, I think he's fine.
Okay, yeah, nothing from Leanne.
Hmm.
I think that covers decisions for the evening. Then I'll open it back up to public comment. Skip.
I was sorry to hear that Art Sky had resigned. He gave a very, very good report at the last time. And I think, as I said when I suggested that you have reports from the planning board, I think it's necessary so that the rest of the people know what's going on. Now, I still have not got any answer as to whether there's making any progress with the rules for the solar farms, and I think there should be. Now, the one thing, I've been used to being in these meetings when the attorney did report for some of the things. And I think that I don't know whether it's proper or not, but I think our attorney could answer that question to satisfy me, whether anything has been done. Have you got a right to do that?
Sure, I mean, I do, I'll tell you one reason I don't come to the meetings regularly, Skip.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, well. Well, I mean, some of you may know, I have 9 kids. They're all growing up. I have a lot of commitments in the evenings. And I also said that I thought it was probably a better expenditure of the town's money to not pay me to sit here for the hours,
I
but,
think you're probably right.
use my time for real work, because sometimes I
Bandy's
sit here
did
and
the
might
same
not say
thing.
much. Yeah.
He
so-
was here when we needed him, and the
Yeah.
rest of the time he wasn't.
Yeah, so, but in regard to the solar issue, that's been batted around a lot.
I know that.
And I think that the board is probably dealing with some other things that are priority over those things. But the issue, at least I've gotten many calls, from friends and farmers around that have gotten the contracts from Cypress Creek and a variety of other things. And what I told each of them is, go talk to your town, tell them what your concerns are, because there's some benefits to having the solar farms in the area, and there are some problems that could result.
If the company survives.
That's correct, and that's one of the problems. Would they be required to post a performance bond to take care of issues in the future? That type of thing. So I think that these other counties, these other towns have taken care of a lot of those issues and created some agreements, and that the town of Palatine could, possibly review those and come up with one that everyone felt comfortable with, because, it could be a benefit to some of
Well,
our
I've
farmers.
been told that the planning board started to tackle that 2-3 months ago to study the others, but that still doesn't see it done.
Correct, yeah.
And there probably are pluses and minuses, there are to everything. But we ended up finally getting some regulations, setbacks and such
Right.
from when these wind generators were here. And I started months ago saying that I thought we needed these things. As long as our code enforcer does not issue a permit to have one, we have no problem. But I don't know if anybody's ever instructed him not to issue a permit.
Yeah, I can't answer that question
Well,
for you, but.
Somebody don't.
So this was referred to the planning board.
Yes, I do.
And I'll attend the July 6th meeting, and we'll get an update there. But if this is something that you're really interested in, probably the best way to get the direct update is
It is if
to
it
go
works.
to that meeting. Yeah.
If it doesn't, it isn't.
I do think you lose your ag exemption if you have a solar farm house.
Well, that's one of the downsides to things. You don't only lose it for the 20 acres that you commit to the solar panels, you can lose it for your entire property. So that's one of the downsides, and that what I've told people is, look, you need to look at your contracts, and you need to judge what kind of money are you really gonna make off this project, and what are the hidden costs and potential pitfalls, problems. How could it diminish your neighbor's value? That's something that has to be thought about. But a lot of those have been thought about.
The problem is, you as an attorney could answer those and get an answer to them. Us peasants can't. No matter whether you're a farmer, whether you're an Amish friend of mine or who. This sounds great. Hey, we're gonna get a big lot of money. And it sounded good, the rest of this stuff too. I have no problem with somebody putting it on their house, and I don't think there's anything against it at this point. But to make a solar farm is a different thing, particularly if it's 50 feet from your property line or your back door. And it can be unless somebody gets some regulations.
And that's one of the things that has been addressed. And
Well,
it's important to.
apparently it hasn't been adopted by the town,
No, it hasn't.
and that should be pushed. They probably have to have a public hearing, and then all of the pros and cons could be aired. I sat here in this room quite a lot of times and listened to that with the wind generators. And I still got a file about that thick of, and I went a lot of places. And I'm not even sure this solar thing. One person from a local school, a higher up, when I asked why they didn't put a solar thing on the school, the answer was, and I don't know whether it was right, but I did have some faith in this person, that they had looked into it and they found that it is not feasible. It just doesn't work here. Now, so I don't know, but I'd like to see our town do something, rather than just kick it back and forth and say, oh, yeah, well.
Well, remember, it's tough to make a decision just in your own mind.
I know,
Try
I
to get all
know.
the town of Palatine to agree on
Well,
something.
The planning board does not have to make a decision. They're not there to make a decision. They're there to make a recommendation,
Right.
right?
Thank you, Skip. Any other comments? Paul?
Just make it quick. On my last correspondence with the controller, I called them back up to thank them for all the work they had done. And I was sort of taken off guard. The controller's secretary said, "Why are you asking me these questions when I spoke with your town clerk, Linda Logan, yesterday?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "I'll ask Linda." Well, just to let the board know and the public, somebody called the controller's office saying it was Linda Logan, town of Palatine clerk. The court clerk up there, the controller's clerk, was smart enough to tell me that when this person called, she got a bad feeling that it wasn't Linda Logan. So they turned around and asked for a letter with town of Palatine head on it with the questions, so they'd have a written back and forth. Somebody's making phone calls claiming to be your town clerk. All right, and then one other
Never
quick thing.
called the comptroller's office. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know
controller,
number.
she hadn't talked to him, I don't know how long. One other quick thing, just about the grant for Judge Dygert. That grant was for new construction, expired on 3/31/16. Judge Dygert, that's after the third extension. Judge Dygert has to reapply for a construction in-house, a revamp loan, whatever they call it, in here. And if you go back in the minutes, probably 6 months ago, he sat right here and told the board that he stated he could reapply for a construction grant, needs certified blueprints and estimate financial and at least 2 bids to give to the unified court system before he can get this money. We're gonna end up sending that $30,000 back and have to reapply again if something's not done real quick.
Thank you. Any other comments? Sandy?
Thank you, Neil, for your work with the cemeteries and everything that you've done with that. I know your heart is into that and making sure all that's done. I only wish that everybody on this board and in the village of Palatine would spend as much effort and as much concern on cleaning this town and this village up. It is falling apart. You know, just picking up trash and picking up junk will help sell some of these houses that are up for sale. Overgrown grass in yards and trees that need to be trimmed. That's what you should be worried about up here, is trying to make our town and our community look like it's thriving and doing something. That doesn't take much. It's passing ordinances and laws that need to be done. We're worrying about such frivolous stuff up here. It's ridiculous. We need to put our heads together. I don't hear any goals or objectives from you guys up here. And the $5,000, you guys talked about it. You said that there was $5,000 being put aside for an attorney to negotiate this. Yes, you did. Go back to the notes and see.
I have the minutes.
I have the floor.
I'm not gonna back in.
And I have the floor. Thank you very much.
Good for you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Where is the letter of resignation from Art? I hear it's quite in detailed as to why he resigned. And one of it was because he couldn't get along with Pam McKenzie, because she said something to him about being a Native American, and he's going after filing a lawsuit against this town, and if you don't get her off the board. Isn't that what the letter says? Isn't that what the letter of resignation? Those are the kinds of things you should be looking at. Transparency is what you always talk about, Sarah. Where is this transparency? Please. I again ask for your resignation. Oh, and thank God for George Amador's office. He helped solve my refrigerator problem.
What do you do?
He knew how to handle it.
He got it removed.
Actually, Cliff did something illegal.
No, he
and
didn't.
against the rules. Yes, go
No,
ahead,
he
private.
didn't.
Sandy, I am not gonna joust with you, but if you,
It's not, we don't have the floor.
okay, you know what? It's all right.
Bill?
Can I ask a question of the attorney thing? I'm Bill Winsman, I'm a member of trying to get the ethics board
Right.
running here.
See if I don't know much, so.
I was gonna say, I don't know how familiar you are with the ethics law. I've read it a couple of times, but it was changed in 2009. I'm wondering if you're aware of it, if you're comfortable with it. Okay, so you don't know much
I'm not
about that.
familiar with it, enough to,
Okay.
speak to it, but if
Can-
you have,
How about a general statement on an example of what an ethics violation would be? What type of a violation should come before the ethics board?
well, I'll give you one area that probably comes up, is conflicts of interest.
Right.
Okay, a conflict of interest, when somebody has a potential interest in the outcome of something, their decision on that may be influenced because they're gonna benefit in some way or the other, they need to disclose that, okay? And not only do they need to disclose it, but all conflicts of interest can be waived. For instance, I represent both sellers and buyers in real estate transactions, okay? As long as both the buyers and sellers understand that I'm on both sides and that I'll disclose all the information that they convey to me, and that there's no dispute between the two of them, I can represent both sides. But if there's a dispute and I get in the middle of that, then they have to get their own attorneys, and I'm out of the picture. So, a conflict of interest would be an example.
The law also reads unethical behavior. That's open to interpretation based on your morals and your ethics.
Yeah,
How
or
would-
or a code, if there's a code.
How would you guide that committee if you were advising?
First of all, I'd say, is there a code that you have?
Yes.
It tells you what specific areas,
No.
there's no code that,
Well, there's a law. It's Town Law 2 of 2009,
oh, it's a town law, okay.
right?
So you'd review the town law, you'd see if some issue came up that you thought fit within that town law, and then you'd see, the extent of the potential abuse, and you'd make a decision on that. You might make a decision to warn somebody, you might make a decision to discipline them, fire them,
Well, that was the last
Right.
question I have. How much authority does this ethics board have? And let me, just before we answer that, I have a fundamental constitutional issue with appointed people having authority over elected officials, okay? So as the other person, I'll say that, number one. But what is your thought on that, or?
Well, you have to read the town law to see what authority you have, okay? States have police power over behavior, ethics and things like that, but you create a local law and that one would govern. Then if there's nothing in that local law, you'd go and look. You'd say, is there something in the county? Is there something in the state that addresses it? And if there's nothing, then it's a good question. It's kind of up in the air. I think that's one of the problems that we find is we're not really sure what we have the authority to do. Village of Nelliston has no zoning law. Well, what do we do? Someone has a problem with the dogs pooping in the grass on the village grounds. What do they do if they want to stop it? Do they create a new law? My suggestion is we're creating too many new laws. Why don't you go and talk to the person if you know who it is and see if you can resolve it that way. That's my approach, but it's hard to give you an answer because I don't know, where the answer might be,
Right,
or if there even is one.
And this is my fear, that we're gonna be meeting and do our best, and we're gonna make a mistake, or we're gonna act inappropriately and not know that we are. Would you, as the town attorney, be there for these hearings or these accusations? Would you take part in those meetings?
I can be. I can come if I'm asked to come, sure.
Who would have to ask you? This was a
Probably
question I had
anyone,
before.
probably-
Does the chairperson of the ethics board have that authority that when I'm gonna say it's me, I'm gonna cost the town money by having you there? Or is that
Well-
something the board has to?
Well, I think you probably could do that. I think you probably want to ask the board and see, does the board want us to have authority or one person on the ethics committee to do that? Or should we go to the board first? You just have a method of doing that so you feel comfortable because you may be spending some money.
Right,
Or,
so that, my last statement, I promise. That's my question of the town council. Tell me what you want us to do.
It would be my recommendation to have, when you have your full board and you have that first meeting, to make sure Greg is there. Because you'll be laying the groundwork for the work that you have. You'll be looking at I assume that you have already some complaints in. You'll be looking at the complaints and their scope, and you can make a plan for that. And I certainly support having Greg at your disposal within reason, recognizing that there's a cost to it.
Well, and let me explain this too. Probably not everybody understands how I build the town. The town has hired me to give 4 hours a month, and pays me for that. But I get paid in addition beyond that work for litigation, for other types of things. So what I've done, some months there may not be 4 hours of work. So I set up a file where I get a flat fee for the 4 hours, but I have a second file so that I give. If I don't give it 1 month, I try to give it the next month, and I don't bill the town for extra money unless I put in those 4 hours. And so, if there's any question about that, you can ask me, and you say, "Hey, Greg, do we have any hours within that budget that you can spend?" And I'll tell you, yeah. I only spent 2 hours. I didn't come to the meeting this month. Absolutely, we'll make that part of the monthly fee.
Can I
you
ask
can
Greg
save some
something
money.
when he finishes?
Thank you.
Can
There
I,
were some other questions.
That's all right.
he asked the board, can I address?
Yeah.
Listen, you got a tough situation. I appreciate that you volunteered for this. I hope you know it's what you got yourself into, but we appreciate you showing up. You guys are gonna have to figure out a threshold. There's a lot of feelings and there's a lot of witch hunt. You're gonna have to figure out a threshold. What is an ethics violation and what is just sour grapes? I think you guys are savvy enough to know the difference. It's a breach of confidentiality, it's a conflict of interest, it's pilfering, it's stealing. You know what the things you wouldn't want done to you, okay? If it's, I don't like the way this guy talks or this girl talks, I think you guys will figure it out and you'll set that standard. And we thoroughly, will back you, okay? So.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Margaret?
You currently have 3 positions that are vacant, that are appointed positions. Well, you'll need to add a 4th one. I believe my term on the VAR expires September of this year, and I am not seeking to be reappointed because, as Chris said, you guys probably need fresh blood, not my old blood who has a lot of knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Any other, before Skip goes again, any other comments? Go for it.
Where does slander come under this ethics business? And I'll tell you why I asked. Years ago, a person said they were going to sue me for slander. I went to 2 really friends that were great attorneys. They both told me that the truth was not slander. Now, I don't know, but where does slander come under this thing?
Well, 2 questions, right? If you convey some information to somebody else that is truthful, it's not typically slander. However, you can damage somebody's reputation by having a malicious intent, by telling the truth about them. For instance, that someone has a communicable disease, or that they're bad in their business. So you even though you may think it's truthful, you have to be careful. But it doesn't fall under ethics. That's a legal cause of action, okay? So unless you have a policy, Skip, that says, we don't want our employees to say certain things or do certain things like this, and it's not a constitutional right infringement or something, then it's
Well,
not
I said in a strange conversation, that lady is a witch. That's what I said.
that would
And that's
be,
all.
yeah,
That's the only time that anybody was going to sue me for slander.
That would be opinion. You weren't conveying information
I
about
thought,
that.
that's what the lawyers told me.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it
You
can,
could probably get away with
but that type of thing can really damage people.
Yeah, I can.
And that's why I asked that question.
That's gonna make the line.
Lady then, it doesn't make any difference.
All right, any other comments?
I got one quick question. Excuse me if I don't stand. I will announce my name, Paul Spencer. I just come with a little note here. On court night, DA night, we get a sheriff up here, correct?
A deputy, yeah.
A deputy. Do you know, can anybody inform me what that cost is now? Per month, per year, or whatever? The reason I bring this question up, I realize what Harry pays their local police to come in on DA night. It seemed like a lot of money for a community that's really in good shape and high morales, and even we're protected by a cardboard cop in here. I just wonder how much we're paying the real guy.
I think we only get billed like every 2 months or every 3 months, Sarah.
Yeah, it's not a regular bill.
I think we've only gotten one bill this year.
I thought it was $50 an hour.
I didn't know.
A couple months back, at least a couple months back.
Wasn't it $50 an hour?
It depends. There's two different prices.
Oh, that's right, full-time and.
Full-time and part-time are two different prices, yeah.
I don't have it broken out here, but I'll get that number.
No worries, just up in the rolls.
Any other comments? Then we need the motion, any other business? And then we need the motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Cheryl?